It's time now for Grow in English with the news, your free, simple, and interesting study of English by looking at pronunciation and words that may be new to you to help you grow in English. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Coming from the South USA, I am your host, Paul, and today's story comes from Las Vegas, Nevada, where Uber has decided to partner with another business and they're going to have some driverless vehicles. We'll get to that in just a moment, but I hope you're having a great day today as you're either ending your day on the American side of the world or on the United States side of the world, or whether you're just waking up, say in the Asia Pacific Rim, as we do this live. And no matter whether you're listening live or listening later, we're so appreciative of you and being here with us today. This is our second broadcast on Grow in English, and glad that you're with us again. I did hear some comments from a couple of folks, one in India, one in the Philippines, and although they enjoyed the program, they're still a little unsure about how fast that they're going to grow in English through these new stories. Well, the main purpose of these stories are to, number one, listen to me pronounce words in the news story and then pick out some key words that you might can use as you're trying to learn English and as you're trying to speak English. And by the way, I would always encourage you to try to speak English as much as you possibly can to somebody. I know it's sometimes embarrassing and sometimes people might say something to you, but you can't worry about those things because you're wanting to grow in English. This is something that is very important for those of you who are in business. I do have a private tutoring business, and as part of that, most of the ones of whom I tutor privately are people like software engineers. We have had some pharmacists, even had some doctors. And they are all exploring and expanding into English-speaking countries, whether it's somewhere in the West, either in Europe or here in the United States. So, with that being said, bear that in mind. Don't expect you to understand 100% of everything that we're talking about in these particular stories, but as the title suggests, we want you to grow in English. And as always, if you have a question or comment, please be sure to post those either on YouTube or you can send an email at this particular address. It'll come up here in just a moment at Paul at growinenglish.com, and hope that you'll do that. And I will be very anxious to answer some of your questions as we grow in English. All right, let's get to our story today. Again, our story today is about Uber. We'll give them a little bit of some publicity today. As we do that, let's notice our story. The headline today is this: Uber and Motional launch a Robo taxi service in Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is over in the western portion of the USA. For those of you who may not know, it's in the state of Nevada. And the story begins this way. U.S. ride-hailing firm Uber Technologies Incorporated and driverless tech maker Motional said on Wednesday they launched their public Robo taxi service in Las Vegas. Tough regulatory scrutiny and delayed commercial adoption of autonomous vehicle technology have delayed deployment of robo-taxi services, leaving investors worried. Well, for those of you in the business world, you understand that would be a little bit worrisome, but let's notice a few things in this particular first section of this story. First of all, before we notice scrutiny, I want us to look at, and these stories are from Reuters, by the way, news service under the fair use doctrine. A U.S. ride-hailing, somebody that's hailing. Have you ever had to hail a cab? H-A-I-L, And that just simply means you get out and you're waving your hand. There's a lot of different ways and in a lot of places that you can do that. You can whistle, you can raise your hand and shake it, and hopefully somebody will see it. Well, in today's world, when we use Uber, of course, we use it as on our phone, and we order the vehicle to come. But ride hailing means that you're calling for a vehicle. Used to, you would do it manually, as I suggested, with your hand, or whistling on a busy street. But now, of course, we do it the new technology way. But the first word I want us to look at is this word scrutiny. Scrutiny. Maybe you have not heard this word before. Scrutiny. What is this word that has come up here? Well, it is phonetically pronounced this way, like screw. I have S-K-R-O-O phonetically. You could think about S-C-R-E-W, but scrutiny. Scrutiny. And that simply means to carefully examine or to look at something or information to gather details. You're putting something under scrutiny. And as we are talking about in this particular article, tough regulatory scrutiny and delayed commercial adoption. I know all of these are pretty, as the Filipinos would say, deep English words, but here we are more concerned with pronunciation and, of course, comprehension, but that'll come as we go through these particular stories over the course of days coming up. But tough regulatory scrutiny, and what they're trying to say is all the regulations basically are being scrutinized there, as this man that's smiling there with a magnifying glass. They're taking a careful look and examining the information and gathering details about these things that are going on. So scrutiny. All right, let's look at another word that's in this same paragraph. Scrutiny and delayed commercial adoption of autonomous vehicle technology. Well, that's a big long phrase there, just simply to talk about cars that can drive themselves. That's what autonomous vehicle technology is. For example, Tesla is trying to do that and has done that. There are other vehicles that are attempting to do that as well. But autonomous, what does this word autonomous mean? Well, let's look at it phonetically. Autonomous. You see in this word auto, and then you see the word nomos. Autonomous is how we would pronounce it. And I know this is not a Greek study, but a lot of English words we get from the original Greek language. And of course, all of this word is from the Greek auto, meaning self. And this nomos part comes from basically a law. For example, astronomy. Astro would mean stars. The onomy part there would mean the law of. So someone who studies astronomy is looking at the law of stars. And this, a law of yourself. And so in other words, it's a vehicle that's driving itself. And someone or something that's independent, free from a boss, free to control itself. And here's a picture, by the way, if you are interested in what that particular vehicle looks like. All right, let's move on to the next paragraph. The launch is part of a non-exclusive 10-year agreement between both the companies for driverless vehicles. That's simply what autonomous is that we mentioned a moment ago. It's a driverless vehicle, with a rollout in Los Angeles expected to follow. So, according to the story, they're trying in Las Vegas first, and then they're going to Los Angeles in California. In the multi-market deal, Motional's autonomous vehicles, and that's the company that's providing them, would also ferry both passengers and delivery items for Uber and its Uber Eats division. So, because of the comments from yesterday, let me go ahead and just sort of explain so we can make sure to have some reading comprehension on these stories. The launch is there's a non-exclusive 10-year agreement. So it's not exclusive. I think we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. These driverless vehicles with a rollout, in other words, they're supposed to roll out to come out and start business in Los Angeles. All right, let's notice something here before we go to the next paragraph. Non-exclusive. What is non-exclusive? Do you know there's actually two words? We have a suffix, and then you have another word that could be used by itself, but alas, it's used here together. So let's notice this new word of non-exclusive, and here's how you pronounce it: non-exclusive. I've got an apostrophe V there. Non-exclusive. Non-exclusive. Well, exclusive means something limited to a person or a group of people. When you put non in the English word, N-O-N, in front of a word, it makes it mean the opposite of what that word is. So, thus, non-exclusive means it is available to whoever wants it. You have exclusive, that would mean only a certain number of people can have it. Non-exclusive means the opposite because of the word N-O-N, non. All right, next paragraph, next couple of paragraphs. Riders are currently not being charged as part of the early days of launch, Uber said in an interview with Reuters, but added that they plan to start charging for their driverless commercial launch. Now, we're going to talk about that word commercial here in just a moment. The company said that they would have vehicle operators for now, although they are working to make a fully driverless experience available to the public by 2023. By the way, I have questions sometimes about how we pronounce numbers and years and things like that. So you can pronounce that, the year, one of a couple of ways. You can say 2023, or you can say 2023. And so we are in the year 2022, or you can say 2022. Either way is acceptable. All right, let's notice here this word commercial. Commercial, driverless commercial launch. That's when they're going to start charging. So let's see what they mean by that. If it's new now or if it's free now and as part of this new rollout, what does it mean? Well, commercial. How you pronounce this word? Commercial, as you see there. It's related to making money. That's what it means here in this particular article. There's also a meaning of an ad or an advertisement on television. For example, as you're watching television, and sometimes when you're watching here on YouTube, if you're not a YouTube Premium member, you'll have a commercial or an advertisement or an advertisement that will come up. And that's a commercial. But that's especially on television as you're watching your favorite program and a 30-second commercial will come up. It's an ad. But here in this particular case in the article, it's talking about the use of Uber Eats and delivery services other than passenger service. So going back to the article here, they plan to start charging for their driverless commercial launch. So once they get past this free business, and as it has said in this next paragraph, they have operators now in the vehicle, but they plan next year, 2023 or 2023, to have driverless vehicles. But they're going to charge for the commercial side of it. So when Uber Eats, for example, delivers food, that's a commercial product, or any other delivery service. That's on the commercial side as opposed to a passenger. All right, let's see. Moving on. If an autonomous vehicle is available to complete the trip, Uber will match the rider to the vehicle, and they will receive an offer to opt in before the autonomous trip is confirmed and dispatched to pick them up. So in other words, if you don't want one of these driverless vehicles, then you'll have the option not to take those. Are you going to take one? If it comes to your city, would you feel comfortable with no driver there? It'd be interesting to see. All right, second paragraph. Uber is rekindling its Robo taxi plans following a brief hiatus after selling its autonomous vehicle research division to San Francisco-based startup Aurora in 2020 or 2020. All right, let's notice some words here in this particular section. We've already noticed autonomous. That's something that's being driven by itself, driverless. Rekindling in the second paragraph here. Uber is rekindling. Have you ever heard of this word? This word has a couple of meanings to it. So let's notice, what is rekindling? Well, the root of rekindling is a kindle. Rekindle. And then you just add the ing out on the end of that. Rekindle. Well, to kindle means to light a fire. In fact, there is, I grew up here in the South, but South USA, but anywhere really. My father used to go out into the woods and he would get a piece of pine wood that's in the ground, the stump, and he would chop that up because it's full of what we call resin, like a sticky substance. And you can put a match to that or put a lighter on that and it just lights right up. That's kindling. Amazon has an electronic product called a Kindle, and it comes from this word fire. They're trying to light a fire for people reading, I suppose. So to kindle something means to light a fire. When you put re in front of it, the re suffix, or prefix rather, in front of a word, it means to do something again, to do something again. Thus, in the article, to rekindle or rekindling, as it says, means to start their plans over again. So Uber is rekindling, they're starting over again its robo-taxi plans following a brief hiatus. Well, there's another word that we need to look at, hiatus. That's a word you may not have heard. So let's look at this new word of hiatus. What's a hiatus? Hi, like you're saying hello to someone. Hi, and then a-tus. Hiatus. Hiatus. Well, a hiatus is to take a break or to pause doing something, a gap between events. For example, we did a broadcast yesterday of Grow in English, and we've had a hiatus of about 24 hours, and now we're doing another one. So a hiatus is a pause in between some events or between doing something. That's what a hiatus means. And as we go back to the article, they've rekindled these plans following a brief hiatus or a brief break. And that's what he's trying to say here. All right. That's the end of the story, believe it or not. I'm trying not to make these too awful long, but as we get to the end of this, I want you to try to remember, we've looked at several words, and I know we've gone through this quickly, but we want to keep these fairly short. And, of course, as always, if you have any questions, just send those to me. But I hear some 3 words for you to try to remember, and I hope you can remember these words and try to use them in a sentence. Not, by the way, to impress your friends, not to impress anybody, but for yourself, so that you can increase your vocabulary, increase your pronunciation, and use words that maybe others may not, rather than just simple English. When I am in the Philippines, and if I'm speaking something or say a word that they don't know, they'll say, oh, that's too deep. It's deep English. And some of these words are deep English, but remember, our goal here is to help you to grow in English, and that's why we picked out these words. So scrutiny. Scrutiny. Remember that with the man with the magnifying glass? Well, here's a sentence. It is time for yearly reviews. All employees are up for scrutiny. Are you in a job that does reviews or does inventory, some business like that? And so sometimes those are under scrutiny. Sometimes we all have reviews as we go through our employment. Rekindling, you remember? Kindle means to light, like a fire. To means to do it again. I thought those two had broken up. Yes, but they are rekindling their love. Oh, that's so sweet, isn't it? Two people that maybe had broken up, but now they're together. They're rekindling their love. They're lighting a fire again for their love. And then this final word, hiatus. Hiatus. Where have you been? I haven't seen you at work. Oh, I was on a brief hiatus. Maybe they were on vacation. Maybe they'd done something wrong at work and were suspended. And so they're just saying, oh, I was on a brief hiatus. Maybe if you, for those of you that smoke sometimes, will go out on a smoke break. And if you're gone longer than 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, somebody will say, where have you been? You can say, oh, I was on a hiatus. Instead of on a smoke break. That sounds a lot better, doesn't it? So these three words, scrutiny, rekindling, and hiatus. I hope that you can try to learn those in the next coming days. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this particular portion of our story and growing in English. As always, don't forget to post your questions here on YouTube, or you can email me at paul@growinenglish.com. We'll see you tomorrow about the same time or so, every single day as we all try to grow in English together. Thanks for being with us, and see you again tomorrow.